March 2, 1945. Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force. A radio message arrives from General George Smith Patton Jr.'s Third Army. The staff officer reading it freezes. His hands tremble. The message is only 17 words long, but those 17 words will echo through military history forever. Have taken Trier with 2 divisions. What do you want me to do? Give it back? Just 48 hours earlier, Eisenhower's headquarters had explicitly ordered Patton not to attack Trier, Germany's oldest city, founded by the Romans over 2,000 years ago. Intelligence said it would require 4 divisions to capture. Patton had done it with 2. While headquarters was still debating whether to authorize the attack, Patton had already won the battle. Now he was asking, with unmistakable sarcasm, if they wanted him to return the ancient city to the Nazis. This is the story of military audacity versus bureaucratic caution, of a general who believed asking forgiveness was easier than asking permission, and of what happened when America's most controversial commander refused to take no for an answer. Trier, Germany, a city older than Christianity itself. When Julius Caesar's legions marched into Germania in 58 BC, they found the Celtic Treveri tribe thriving on the banks of the Moselle River. Caesar conquered them, and Rome transformed their settlement into Augusta Treverorum, the capital of Roman Gaul. Over 2 millennia, emperors walked its streets. Constantine the Great issued edicts from its halls, and medieval princes ruled from its towers. By February 1945, Trier had survived 2,000 years of history. Now it faced its greatest test, becoming a fortress in Hitler's desperate defense of the Third Reich. General George Smith Patton Jr. stared at maps of the Moselle River Valley in his headquarters. After relieving Bastogne during the Battle of the Bulge, his Third Army had been ordered to adopt an aggressive defense along the German border. To Patton, this phrase was an oxymoron. There was no such thing as aggressive defense, only attack or retreat, and Patton never retreated. His superior, General Omar Nelson Bradley, commander of the 12th Army Group, had different problems. Supreme Commander Dwight David Eisenhower had given priority to British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery's operations in the north. This meant Bradley's forces, including Patton's Third Army, would receive reduced supplies and reinforcements. 2 of Patton's best divisions, the 95th Infantry and 17th Airborne, had been stripped away and sent to Montgomery. Patton was furious, but he had a plan. He called it armed reconnaissance, a deliberately vague term that could mean anything from light patrols to full-scale assault. In Patton's interpretation, armed reconnaissance meant attacking with 7 divisions toward 3 objectives: Prüm, Bitburg, and Trier. Trier was the prize. The ancient city commanded the Moselle River crossings and controlled the western approaches to Germany's industrial Saar region. Capturing it would rip a hole in the Siegfried Line and open the gateway to the Rhine. Intelligence estimated German strength in Trier at 1 full division, reinforced by artillery, with additional reserves nearby. The terrain was brutal: steep hills, dense forests, and rivers swollen by the worst winter in 38 years. On February 10th, Bradley called Patton with bad news. Eisenhower was transferring more divisions from the 12th Army Group to the 9th Army under General William Simpson, which would operate under Montgomery's command. Patton erupted. His Third Army, which had saved Bastogne and shattered German counteroffensives, was being treated like a secondary force while Montgomery prepared another elaborate set-piece battle. Patton issued orders to his corps commanders. Major General John Milliken's III Corps would drive through the Eifel region. Major General Walton Walker's XDX Corps would push toward the Saar, and Major General Manton Eddy's the Bundesdienst Corps would advance toward Trier. The offensive began on February 7th under appalling conditions. Soldiers fought through snow, ice, and mud. Rivers became obstacles that required engineering miracles to cross. German defenders fought savagely, knowing they were defending their homeland. By late February, Patton's forces had captured Prüm and Bitburg, bleeding the Germans white in brutal fighting. Now Trier loomed ahead, Germany's oldest city, defended by desperate troops who knew every street and building. The 10th Armored Division, part of Walker's XX Corps, approached the city from the northwest. The 94th Infantry Division maneuvered from the southwest. Air reconnaissance reported strong German defenses. On March 1st, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, SHAEF, sent a message to Third Army: bypass Trier. Intelligence estimates said capturing the city would require 4 divisions and cause unacceptable casualties. The city's ancient fortifications, combined with modern German defenses, made it too costly to assault. Orders were clear. Avoid Trier. Patton read the message and smiled. His divisions were already moving. The 10th Armored Division, commanded by Major General William Morris, had pushed reconnaissance elements to the city's outskirts. The 94th Infantry Division was closing from the south. German resistance, while determined, was crumbling under relentless pressure. Patton made his decision. Attack immediately, before Schaff could reinforce the order to bypass the city. March 1st, 1945, dawn. The 10th Armored Division struck Trier from multiple directions. Sherman tanks crashed through German roadblocks. Infantry advanced behind artillery barrages that shook the ancient Roman walls. The 94th Infantry Division attacked from the south, pushing German defenders back into the city center. The battle was fierce but brief. German troops, exhausted from months of retreat and short on ammunition, could not hold against American combined arms tactics. The 10th Armored Division's Combat Command B punched through the northwestern suburbs. Engineers threw bridges across the Moselle under fire. By nightfall, American tanks were in the city streets. March 2nd brought the decisive assault. American infantry cleared buildings methodically. The ancient Porta Nigra, the Black Gate, built by Romans in 180 AD, witnessed American soldiers fighting house to house through medieval streets. Constantine's Basilica, where Roman emperors once held court, became a battlefield. German snipers fired from church towers. American artillery responded, carefully avoiding the most significant historical structures. By afternoon, organized German resistance collapsed. Over 6,000 German soldiers surrendered. The city that Schaff said would require 4 divisions to capture had fallen to 2 divisions, the 10th Armored and elements of the 94th Infantry, in less than 48 hours. American casualties were surprisingly light, fewer than 200 killed and wounded. Major General Hobart Gay, Patton's chief of staff, drafted the after-action report. Patton read it, then reached for the message pad. He wrote 17 words that would become legend. Have taken Trier with 2 divisions. What do you want me to do? Give it back. The message was vintage Patton, simultaneously a report, a boast, and a barb aimed at the cautious planners at Schaff who had tried to stop him. It was also a challenge to Bradley and Eisenhower. I've just captured one of Germany's most important cities ahead of schedule and under budget. What are you going to do about it? At 3rd Army headquarters, staff officers chuckled as they transmitted the message. They knew their commander's reputation for insubordination, but they also knew his track record. Since becoming operational in Normandy on August 1, 1944, the 3rd Army had liberated more territory, captured more prisoners, and inflicted more casualties than any other Allied army in Europe. Patton's methods were unorthodox, his personality abrasive, but his results were undeniable. The message reached 12th Army Group headquarters in Luxembourg, where General Omar Nelson Bradley read it with mixed emotions. Bradley and Patton had been friends since their days at West Point. They had served together in North Africa, Sicily, and France. Bradley knew Patton better than any other senior commander, knew his brilliance in mobile warfare, his instinct for exploiting enemy weakness, his relentless aggression. He also knew Patton's flaws, his insubordination, his political tone deafness, his tendency to create diplomatic incidents. The slapping incidents in Sicily had nearly ended Patton's career. His off-the-record comments to reporters regularly caused headaches for Eisenhower. And now this, openly mocking Schaff's intelligence estimates while reporting a victory won in defiance of orders. But Bradley couldn't deny the achievement. Trier was a major German city, a critical transportation hub, and a gateway to the Saar industrial region. Its capture shortened Allied supply lines, denied the Germans a major fortress, and demoralized enemy troops who had expected to hold the city for weeks. The speed of the victory and the light casualties made it a textbook example of armored warfare. Bradley picked up the phone to call Eisenhower at Schaff. The Supreme Commander would need to know about this, both the victory and the message. And Bradley would need to manage Eisenhower's reaction carefully, because Patton had just done it again, achieved a spectacular military success while simultaneously insulting his superiors. Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, Reims, France. General Dwight David Eisenhower sat at his desk reading Patton's message for the 3rd time. 16 staff officers waited for his reaction. The room was silent except for cigarette smoke swirling in the afternoon light. Eisenhower's relationship with Patton was complex and decades old. They had met at West Point, served together in World War I, and remained friends through the interwar years. When war came again, Eisenhower had given Patton command opportunities in North Africa and Sicily, despite Patton's controversial reputation. After the slapping incidents nearly destroyed Patton's career, Eisenhower had protected him, kept him in the European theater, and eventually given him the Third Army. He had done this because Patton was irreplaceable. The Germans feared him more than any other Allied commander. German intelligence devoted enormous resources to tracking his movements. When Patton commanded the fictional First Army Group in England before D-Day, German High Command remained convinced the main invasion would come at Calais, because surely the Allies would use their best general for the main attack. Now that best general had just captured a major German city in defiance of explicit orders, and his message was simultaneously a situation report and a provocation. "What do you want me to do? Give it back?" The sarcasm was unmistakable. Patton was essentially saying, "Your intelligence was wrong, your orders were wrong. I ignored both, won a major victory, and now what are you going to do about it?" Eisenhower finally looked up at his staff. "Get me Bradley on the phone." When Bradley answered, Eisenhower's voice was controlled but tight. "Brad, I just received George's message about Trier." There was a pause. "The city that Chef said would require 4 divisions. Bradley's response was diplomatic. "Yes, Ike. George took it with elements of 2 divisions in under 48 hours. Light casualties. Over 6,000 prisoners. The Germans collapsed faster than anyone expected." "And the message?" Eisenhower asked. Bradley chuckled despite himself. "Pure George." He couldn't resist. Eisenhower didn't laugh. He was supreme commander of the largest military operation in history, responsible for maintaining coalition unity between American, British, Canadian, and French forces. Every decision had political dimensions. Montgomery was already sensitive about American operations stealing his thunder. The combined chiefs of staff in Washington and London scrutinized every move, and Patton had just publicly mocked Schaeff's intelligence estimates. But Eisenhower was also a practical soldier. Trier was captured. The victory was real. The cost was acceptable. The strategic benefits were significant. Punishing Patton for succeeding would demoralize the Third Army and send the wrong message to other commanders. And the Germans had just lost one of their most important defensive positions west of the Rhine. "What's the situation now?" Eisenhower asked. Bradley reviewed the tactical picture. The 10th Armored Division was consolidating control of Trier. The 94th Infantry was clearing remaining resistance. Engineers were already repairing the Moselle bridges for supply columns. Walker's XX Corps could now advance toward the Saar. The capture had created opportunities for the entire southern sector. Eisenhower made his decision. "Tell George good work on Trier, but tell him to cut out the sarcastic messages. I don't need his wit. I need his victories." Bradley smiled. "I'll pass that along, Ike." After hanging up, Eisenhower returned to his maps. Patton had done it again, achieved the impossible through sheer audacity and tactical brilliance. The Third Army was now positioned to launch the Saar-Palatinate offensive, which would destroy 2 German armies and open the road to the Rhine. Eisenhower would later chuckle when recounting Patton's Trier message to other commanders. It became one of the most famous communications of the war, but at the moment the Supreme Commander had bigger concerns. Montgomery's Rhine crossing was scheduled for late March. The war was entering its final phase. Germany was collapsing, and George Patton, despite his insubordination and sarcasm, remained indispensable. 12th Army Group Headquarters, Luxembourg. General Omar Nelson Bradley put down the phone after talking with Eisenhower and turned to his staff. "Gentlemen, General Patton has captured Trier with 2 divisions. Schaeff estimated 4. He's asking if we want him to give it back." The room erupted in laughter. Every officer present knew Patton's reputation. They also knew his results. Since Bradley had taken command of all American ground forces in Normandy, Patton's Third Army had been his most consistently successful formation. While other armies ground forward methodically, Patton exploited breakthroughs, encircled German forces, and liberated territory at speeds that made headlines worldwide. But Bradley's relationship with Patton was complicated. They had been classmates at West Point in different years, served together in the interwar army, and fought together in North Africa and Sicily. Bradley had been Patton's subordinate in Sicily, then became his superior in France, a reversal that Patton never fully accepted. Bradley was methodical, careful, attuned to political realities. Patton was impulsive, aggressive, and politically tone-deaf. Bradley picked up a message pad and began drafting his response. He needed to acknowledge Patton's achievement without encouraging more insubordination. He needed to keep Eisenhower happy while maintaining Patton's fighting spirit. And he needed to give Patton his next orders before the maverick general decided on his own what to do next. The message read, "Congratulations on capture of Trier. Well done. Do not give it back. Expand Bridgehead and prepare for further operations toward SAR. Additional divisions being assigned to XX Corps. Await further orders before advancing beyond current objectives." The last sentence was critical. Bradley knew Patton's tendency to interpret orders creatively. Aggressive defense had become a 7-division offensive. Armed reconnaissance had captured Germany's oldest city. Now Bradley needed to ensure Patton didn't decide independently to launch a campaign across the Saar and into the Palatinate before higher headquarters approved. When Bradley's message reached 3rd Army headquarters, Patton read it with satisfaction. "Well done" from Bradley was high praise. "Do not give it back" showed his superior had a sense of humor about the situation. And "prepare for further operations" meant Bradley was already thinking about exploiting the Trier victory. Patton called in his corps commanders. Major General Walton Walker, whose XX Corps had captured Trier, arrived first. "Congratulations, Troy," Patton said, using Walker's nickname. "You just took a city Schaff said was impossible. Now I need you to do the impossible again." Patton outlined his vision. Trier was not the objective. It was the starting point. The real prize was the Saar-Palatinate region, the industrial heart of Western Germany. If the Third Army could advance rapidly from Trier, cross the Saar River, and drive southeast toward the Rhine, they could trap 2 entire German armies, the 7th and 1st, in a pocket. It would be the greatest encirclement since Falaise. But he needed Bradley's approval, and Bradley needed Eisenhower's approval. And Eisenhower was busy managing Montgomery's elaborate Rhine crossing plans. So Patton did what he always did. He prepared for the operation he wanted to conduct, positioned his forces optimally, and waited for the right moment to propose it. March 5th brought that moment. Eisenhower, pleased with overall progress and mindful of the opportunity created by Trier's capture, authorized Bradley to order Patton to advance into the Palatinate. Bradley's message to Patton was 3 words: "Take the Rhine." Patton needed no further encouragement. On March 13th, he launched the Saar-Palatinate offensive. What followed was one of the most devastating campaigns of World War II. March 13, 1945. In 9 days, General George Smith Patton Jr.'s Third Army conducted an operation that military historians still study as a masterpiece of mobile warfare. Launching from Trier and other positions along the German border, 8 divisions of the Third Army tore through German defenses in a campaign of speed, violence, and coordination that left the Wehrmacht reeling. The 10th Armored Division, which had captured Trier, drove southeast into the Palatinate. The 4th Armored Division, Patton's favorite formation, slashed through German rear areas. Infantry divisions cleared fortified positions while armor exploited breakthroughs. The 7th Army under General Alexander Patch attacked from the south. Together they created a massive pocket that trapped German forces fleeing toward the Rhine. In those 9 days, Patton's Third Army captured 68,000 German prisoners. They killed or wounded 99,000 more. They liberated 3,072 cities, towns, and villages. They seized 6,484 square miles of enemy territory. They effectively destroyed the German 7th and 1st Armies as fighting formations. And they did it while advancing over 100 miles through difficult terrain against an enemy fighting on home soil. The cost was significant, thousands of American casualties, but the achievement was undeniable. The Saar-Palatinate campaign shortened the war. German forces that might have defended the Rhine for months were shattered in 9 days. Industrial facilities that could have supported continued resistance were captured intact or destroyed. And the Third Army reached the Rhine River on March 22nd, ready to cross. Trier's capture had made it all possible. That city, dismissed by Schaff as too costly to attack, became the launch point for one of the war's decisive campaigns. Patton's audacity in attacking when ordered to bypass had created opportunities that methodical planning never would have achieved. General Omar Nelson Bradley would later write in his memoirs, "George was a magnificent soldier. His vigor was always infectious, his wit barbed, at once stimulating and overbearing. When the chips were down, George was the man to have on your side. He never explicitly mentioned the "give it back" message, but the incident exemplified everything Bradley admired and feared about his old friend. Brilliant tactical instinct combined with insubordinate streak. Eisenhower, in his post-war reflections, acknowledged Patton's unique value. When asked about difficult subordinates, he said he would take one Patton over 3 conventional commanders. The Supreme Commander had spent the war managing Patton's excesses while exploiting his genius. Trier was a perfect example. Patton had violated orders, mocked his superiors, and won a victory that validated his judgment. The "give it back" message entered military legend. It appeared in histories, memoirs, and movies. It became shorthand for aggressive leadership versus bureaucratic caution. Young officers at West Point studied it as an example of operational art, how tactical success creates strategic opportunities. Others examined it as a case study in civil-military relations and the limits of insubordination. For Patton himself, Trier represented vindication. After being sidelined for the slapping incidents, relegated to a deception role before D-Day, and repeatedly given secondary priority in operations, he had proven his worth through results. His Third Army had become the standard by which other formations were measured. His methods, aggressive reconnaissance, rapid exploitation, combined arms coordination, had revolutionized American armored warfare. On March 22, when Third Army forces crossed the Rhine in record time, Patton issued General Order No. 70 to his troops. It listed Trier among the campaign's major achievements, but the city meant more than a name on a list. It represented the moment when audacity triumphed over caution, when aggressive action created opportunities that careful planning never could. General Bradley's response to the "give it back" message, "do not give it back," was both a joke and a command. It acknowledged Patton's achievement while establishing that victories once won must be held and exploited. It was the perfect response to the perfect message. Practical, humorous, and strategically sound. Germany's oldest city had witnessed Caesar's legions, Roman emperors, medieval princes, and Nazi occupiers. In March 1945, it witnessed American audacity at its finest.